Welcome to the Minx and Muse podcast. I'm your host, Crimson Minx, creatrix of Minx and Muse, a dark feminine playhouse where we awaken our innate magic through esoerotic dance and witchcraft. Welcome to the portal of enchantment. Hello, and welcome to the Minx and Muse podcast. This is a solo episode with me, Crimson. And today I thought we would call this 2024 Pre-Eclipse season. Because I was doing really well at doing monthly podcasts on our archetypal themes of each month. And then I got really into making some videos on the dark feminine. So we actually haven't talked about all of the work we've done at the studio January, February, and now into March. And we are about to enter into eclipse season at the end of this month and through April. And I thought this would be a perfect time to show how we are really intentional with the archetypes that we work with each month at the studio, how they coincide with the astrology, greatly inspired by the astrology reports we get each month for the multiverse from our in-house astrologer, Tara Valkyrie, who I think was two or three podcast interviews ago. So you can check that out if you're interested in learning more about her. But she's wonderful, and she writes our astro reports every month, and she is really influential in how we choose the archetypes that we're going to work with, because we always want them. Hello, we're witches. We want the energies that we work with to align with the cosmic energies. And even beyond that, I like to plan out a bigger vision of how the archetypes are going to work together in a practical way that is going to be leading us intentionally in a certain direction. So, why do we even care about eclipse season? So, here's the thing. When eclipse season starts, as witches, we know that we don't want to use that time to really be doing our big manifestations. Instead, we're kind of riding the energy of it, knowing that we already did the work beforehand, because it's during those eclipse portals where we experience unexpected and sudden change or updates and transformation. And if we're working with the energy correctly, if we're intentionally doing the work before the eclipse, the idea is that we are carried through the eclipse and we can actually receive a lot of our intentions that we have been working on during that time and through that time. And I always see eclipses as portals, as this transformational time where we can like timeline jump. But if you have not done the work before the eclipses, it's a little chaotic energetically to get a big focus happening during the time. So let me tell you how this year, 2024, has been at Minx and Muse so far. And a lot of this stuff that we talk to, we bring it in studio, but the in-depth work happens, I always say this, in our virtual membership, The Multiverse, where we have our monthly workbooks and master workshops and multiverse only classes and lunar rituals and private group and blah, blah, blah. But we started January, the Gregorian New Year. We're also about to enter into astrological New Year. So it is that gap between those two times as well. But we started with the archetype of the visionaire. Oh, I loved this archetype. I love getting dreamy at the beginning of the year. And we'll put a pin real quick. We'll return to that in a second, but I do understand that Gregorian New Year is not astrological New Year, and that a lot of people do really feel very still and in the winter energy during that time. I always argue that as a magician, I understand how thought forms and egregores work, and how we as a collective society all believing in something and putting energy towards something creates a very powerful energetic thought form. And playing into that, when the world at large, a majority believes that the calendar changes and there is a renewal and a new beginning at this one time, even if it's not astrological, it's going to have a huge energetic influence. So we don't deny Gregorian New Year just because there is a lot of collective energy around it that we like to embrace. And then we get to have 2 New Years. So then we get to have another one in March during the spring equinox. So, okay. So, but New Year, I always love to get dreamy. And last year, I believe we did the dreamer as the archetype, but this year we did the visionary because we wanted to get beyond the dream state. What we talked about with the visionary is we are magicians and witches. So we always like to vision our life beyond the mundane. And so instead of just going along with the status quo, the way our life was going through expectations or perhaps acting in ways for external approval, we really spent the month stepping back and looking, why do I do things that I do? Why am I pursuing things that I'm pursuing? And is this authentic to me? Is this my authentic truth and desire coming through? And if so, can I even make it more magical? The visionary does not feel constrained by conventions, by, like I said before, the status quo. It's not a just let life happen to you energy. It's an energy where you are the ultimate creatrix of your life and you vision anything from your work to your relationships, to your friendships, to your art. You vision it in a way that is not bound by constraints by how other people are doing things. And it was such a fun month to reflect and say, oh my gosh, like I actually have a really different or creative way that I would like to approach this, but I've just been doing it this way because that's the way it's always been done. And we looked at different areas of our life and decided, is this the vision I truly hold for myself? And then we started taking action. And so even though it wasn't the most active month per se, we were definitely getting balls rolling. We were seeing larger pictures. So to me, this is like step one in our journey leading up to eclipse season is, hey, can we take stock of things? Can we maybe vision things in a more aligned or more magical way? Can we choose how we want to move forward this year? And then after that, we moved into February with our archetype, the curious cultivator. So we had all of these visions for self and visions for the world at large and how we could play into it. And we then, instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to have this action plan, like ABC, I got to get there. It has to happen now. That's so masculine. We are devotees of the dark feminine. And so we thought, how can we play with it? And what we did was we started getting curious about these visions that we cast for ourselves. And instead of putting tremendous pressure on ourselves to make the thing happen as quickly as possible, we wanted to dip a toe in. We wanted to play. We wanted to be able to recalibrate based on how our experiences went. It really allowed for a deeper immersion in our vision. And I think actually gave us a lot more expansion in our realization of how we could actually go about pursuing our vision. And so we got curious about how things could be done in different ways. We even got curious about our fears. And we got curious. We got some pushback on this one. But we even got curious about opinions and thoughts outside of our own. And this was a big challenge that we did within the multiverse, where I said, think of an area of your life where you feel really one-sided about something, like you are very strong in your opinion, and then challenge yourself to get curious about the other side and listen to opinions and thoughts from the other side, not with the intention to change your mind, but just to embrace the curious cultivator and to add a little humanity to the world. So at this time, we are going through really horrendous events happening around the world, especially when it comes to wars and humanitarian efforts. And my thought with how we do the work within the multiverse and within Minx and Muse is that we always start with ourselves, and we understand that we change ourselves, we can change the world. And imagine if people across the world all had that same intention and they made the decision to try to understand or at least listen to people who hold different opinions than themselves, people who are on the other team, the other side. Do you think maybe we may find a lot more tolerance, maybe a lot less missiles and death and destruction because of that? So I know it sounds so small, and it is not insignificant. It is not a worthless effort to start with yourself, to start having tolerance and have the ability to see the humanity in other people, rather than just being, I'm on team A, you're on team B, we're different, fuck you. And in 2020, so this is all around the Hermetic principle of polarity, and how if you are so polarized to believe that there is only one way of going about things or believing in things, that you are so easily controlled and manipulated, you are polarized. And in 2020, we spent a lot of time working with this Hermetic principle of polarity and working on depolarizing ourselves so that we are outside of that control. And this just enhances our magic. And an example that I always like to give, if you're on team A and you just think everyone in team B is dumb and stupid and ignorant, and all I have to say is, well, team B believes this. And you could say, oh, well, I don't believe that. And then I could say, well, team A believes this. You'll say, well, I believe that. Well, yeah, that's not really exercising critical thinking. And it's also just because you were so stigmatized to believe that the other side is completely bad or wrong or evil. And it's a control mechanism, and it's at play all around the world. And it is us as witches and magicians that can start seeing through that energetic intention there and that energetic pool, and start working on depolarizing ourselves, so that we can be and lead by example of how to create a more understanding, empathetic, just, and humane world. Never advocating for hate, never advocating for giving credence to ignorance, but I am always advocating for, can you see the humanity in someone else? And can you have a bit of empathy for people who have grown up, experienced situations other than your own? So, that was just a tangent on the Curious Cultivator. You know, I had to get a little serious because I do really believe that the work we do in the multiverse is life-changing for ourselves, but I do believe that it can be life-changing for the world. Absolutely. But we have to start with ourselves. So going back to the Curious Cultivator, so we got a little curious about how to depolarize, but we got curious about the world around us. And I said our fears. And one of the fears that we faced was, this vision that I hold for myself. What fear do I have holding me back from taking those next steps? And we examined that. We did our shadow work, and we got playful and curious with it. And so we started with our vision, and then we immersed and explored it. And we even got more expansive in our understanding of what that vision could truly be. And now we moved into March, and here we are with the modern mystic. So this is the month where we are using our mystical and magical practices in contemporary life. And again, we've pulled in what we've what we've worked on in January and February, and we're starting to do our mystical workings, our manifestation work, our spell casting for these things, because we have so much depth of understanding of what those are. We took the time to really choose what it is we desire for ourselves and for the world. And now it's the time where we apply our magic and our witchcraft. And it's been fun because we're playing with practical magic this month. This idea of like, how do we weave our witchy workings into our contemporary lives? Like, we even for our new moon ritual this month, so we do new moon and full moon rituals in the multiverse. In the new moon, we all cooked an egg breakfast together, and we did kitchen mysticism using specific herbs, doing certain incantations over our food, and we sat and we did like a gratitude meal together, and it was wonderful. But starting to think, how can I, now that I'm on this trajectory of this new vision for myself, and I'm feeling like I'm ready to show up as this and do this next big thing, how can I infuse my everyday life with magic and mysticism to support my journey forward? And remember before how I said a lot of our workings in the multiverse are inspired by Tara's astro reports? Well, for March, she shared with us that the cosmic energy is all about taking empowered risks. And how freaking perfect is that after working with the visionaire and the curious cultivator? Like, we're now ready. We've gotten to that point of empowerment through working with those archetypes where we're now ready to take that leap, that risk, that leap of faith. And so that's been really cool this month, because I am seeing people within the multiverse doing some really big things. And it is making my heart explode knowing that they are finding so much support through their magic. And there are people who are not doing such big things, but they're doing meaningful things. The meaningful things don't have to be huge or life-changing. We're all in different points of our journey. And so that is a reminder that as witches, we don't want to relegate our witchcraft to just the moon rituals or just to like when we're sitting in circle or in ceremony. It's a lifestyle. And so we've been playing with how can we add mysticism to our life when we are eating, when we are driving, when we are at work, when we are using technology. Our full moon ritual this month is going to be all around cell phone magic, which is so fun. So all to say that we've done all of this just in like, 2.5 months so far this year, but we are starting to enter into eclipse season. So this idea, the intention behind what we've done at the studio and in the multiverse so far is that we have spent the first quarter of this year getting ready to enter a portal of transformation, and that we have the inner fortitude now to make it through any turbulence that may happen through the eclipse, but we also are energetically aligned for any blessings or manifestations or unexpected but desirable surprises to come into our lives. And so that's what we've set ourselves up for, because it's my belief that when we enter the eclipse portals, it's kind of like a check-in. Have you done the work? Oh, you have? Well, great. Let's see what transpires. Oh, you haven't? Make it a little turbulent for you. So within the multiverse, I'm always like preaching of doing the work, but in a way that aligns with what you truly and authentically desire for yourself. And it's not just always calling in. It's a lot of reflection. It's a lot of shadow work. It's a lot of challenging ourselves and trying to grow spiritually and emotionally, in addition to our witchy wisdoms. And so I really feel like we're at a great point to really make our way through eclipse season in a way that feels really empowering and fun and in alignment with our truth. And it's really cool. So the new moon eclipse in Aries that's happening in the beginning of April is actually a total eclipse, and Austin is on the full eclipse path. So we are having a members party at the studio for any of our members who want to come by, and we're all going to watch the eclipse together, and we're just going to celebrate like this amazing cosmic experience. I have never seen a total eclipse. I know for many people it's a once in a lifetime, if ever in a lifetime opportunity. It's a solar eclipse, so we're going to see the sky go completely dark in the middle of the day. And I am so excited for this. And I'm so excited. There's no one I would rather do this with than our member witches, and to just have this experience together. And we're not planning any like ritual or spells around that time. We are just going to treat it as like this celebratory portal that we're all entering into, having already done this aligned work, and just being able to have this cool experience with people who you really love and respect. It means a lot to me. So if you're a member, I hope we get to see you. If you're a member that doesn't live in Austin, this is a perfect time to fly in Austin to come visit. If not for a total eclipse, when? But I hope that maybe today's podcast gave you a little insight into the workings of what we do in the multiverse, and how the archetypes that we work with are really meant to work together to lead from one place to another. Even, our December archetype was all about rest and recalibration, so that we felt refreshed when it came into our time to become the visionaire. And our November archetype was the divine liberator. So that was our time of release and letting go of not. So essentially you can think about, we did a lot of work around what's not serving us anymore. What's time to let go. And we did big work of divine liberation. And then we had like this month of like rest and just presence. And then we went into, okay, it's time to revision what's next. Now it's time to play. Okay, now it's time to use our magic. So I'm so grateful for everyone who does this work with us, for all the witches in the multiverse, and just anyone interested in this that's just listening to the podcast, where maybe they can see how they themselves can work with different archetypal energies for their own intentions. And as a reminder, it's not always just magnetizing and calling in. It's not always just manifestation. When we honor the dark feminine, are always interested in doing the shadow work and going to the depths and having a full holistic experience with our magic. So with that, thank you so much for listening or watching. I'm forever grateful to be doing this work as a perpetual student alongside of you. And please feel free to reach out if you have any thoughts or questions. And I hope to see you again soon. Mwah. Bye. Thank you for joining me for the Minx and Muse podcast. You can find show notes and learn more about the studio at www.minxandmuse.com. As a reminder, it is our birthright to transform, expand, and safely exist as sensual, conscious, and empowered creatures. I'll see you next time.